Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Indie Game Movement, the podcast that talks about the marketing and business of indie games. I'm Andrew Pappas. I'm going to be your host today, along with Mustafa Price, the show's producer, and we're going to be talking about leveraging self-optimization as an indie dev in episode 143. All right, we finally made it to 2021, and I thought it would be fun to switch things up for this episode to share some resources and strategies we've used here that have really helped us see things in a different light and also help us with projects and also all facets of life. So the goal of this episode is to share some examples, experiences, and even resources that can help motivate you and provide a newfound source of energy to help you grow and gain better results with your projects and beyond. So that's what we're going to be talking about right here today on Indie Game Movement. Hey everybody, and we're back, and as I said before, I have Mustafa here with me today. Mustafa, how's it going, buddy?
It is going just great, Sunday brunch style. It's like my favorite type of recording.
Yeah, we are recording this episode on a Sunday morning. I have my coffee right here next to me, which is definitely needed, that's for sure. And it is bitterly cold outside. Typically, for me, at least on my end, I have a little studio that's located in a distant section of the house, and the heat doesn't work that well in that area. So I have relocated today. So if I sound a little bit different, that's part of the reason. But yeah, it's bitterly cold. We've been kind of conditioned to a steady 32 degrees for the past, ever since we technically got into winter and before then, right?
Right, yeah, just about. And now we're single digits and below.
Yeah, so, hey, that's northeastern U.S. for you, but it is winter, so we can't complain that much, so.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Well, before we get into it, we just wanted to share a few updates with you. Because we're pretty excited about this episode because it is something a little bit different, and I think it could be really beneficial for everyone. But first, quick updates. So I know in the past, a while ago now, mentioned that we're getting a new logo, and that is finally completed. And now we're in the process of just updating the existing logo. So really interested to see what you guys think about that. As we start rolling that out. So that's something definitely new that we're both really excited about. And then the other thing is we have some other projects that we still have them in the works too. Again, this is something I think I mentioned a while ago in the past, which is creating some quick video tips. Creating basically available on a YouTube channel and just helpful, quick, informative tips that just other stuff, kind of like an extension of what we're talking about here on the show. So that's something we have in the works and a few other things too. And of course, Mustafa and I have been really hunkering down and brainstorming and coming up with a lot of other great topic discussions that we look forward to with a great guest lineup too. I know, Mustafa, you're working with someone right now, someone I think a lot of people will be really interested in hearing from. So, yeah, I'm not going to go into much more than that because it's something that we're really excited about there, and obviously a lot of other great stuff going on. So that's it from my end for updates and stuff. Mustafa, anything else on your end or fun things that you're working on or anything really that you would like to share?
Yeah, sure. So recently, about a month and a half, I would say at this point, I kind of revived my old YouTube channel. And I've been kind of doing some steady uploads on there. I do a video roughly every other week. I did a video about this podcast, and then I've been doing a lot of game reviews, video essays, character analysis stuff and all sorts of that fun stuff,
Okay, cool.
So
And
that's been
what's
exciting.
that does sound awesome, and especially with like the content that you're covering. So what's the channel called? What's your channel?
Yeah, so it's literally just my name. Well, it's branded as Mustafa's Game Room, but you can find it by just looking for my name, Mustafa Price, on YouTube.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we'll definitely throw that in the show notes too, so people can check that out too, because like you said, that content sounds really awesome.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, definitely. All right. Without further ado, let's get right into the discussion here today, which is leveraging self-optimization as an indie dev. Now, so on the show, we've talked a lot about different strategies and methods, and the experiences that our guests have had so we could better understand this information and share how their process was in learning this and how it can be applied to your own projects and business. So considering that we are kind of, still in the new year here, I thought it would be good to have an episode where we could share some resources and strategies that we have used, Mustafa and I, that allowed us to better understand things, look at things in a different lens, or just allowed us to optimize ourselves from a self-improvement perspective, but also how our learnings could be applied to different projects that we work on. So, again, I thought this would be a great opportunity to share this with you. And while some of these things might not necessarily be directly related to business and marketing of games, so to speak, we're pretty confident that what we're going to share with you will definitely contribute to a lot of different aspects of what you do with your business and beyond. So let's just get right into it, and I'll let Mustafa kind of kick it off here in terms of some of the strategies that he uses that have been extremely beneficial to working on your projects or how you see things differently. So what are some things that you would love to share with us, and what's worked really well for you?
Yeah, sure thing. So, if you've worked, I guess, like in a corporate environment in any capacity, I apologize because you've probably heard this like 80 times. Um, but I'm going to talk about SMART goals because one thing that I found is a pretty big hurdle for any type of independent project, any project at all where you are not on kind of a specific rigid timeline, is setting goals that fall under these categories. So, for those who don't know, SMART goals basically turns the word SMART into an acronym to describe a specific means of goal setting. The S standing for specific, make sure your goal is detailed and not just kind of a general statement or platitude that doesn't get you anywhere. Really something that is I guess getting into what the M means, something that is measurable, tangible, where you can have, clear indicators of the success of the given goal. Now, the A and the R are my favorite because they're attainable and realistic. Realistic in some schools of thought, some would say relevant. I think that's a little bit more applicable to a traditional corporate environment. Keeping your goals attainable is a way of making sure that you're doing things that are purposeful and that are ultimately going to yield strong results, but that are possible and, again, realistic, things that fall into, your skill set. But realistic doesn't mean doing something that you know how to do and do well. I would say realistic applies to what the T actually means, which is time-bound or timely or time-based. Really, I've seen it any which way. But time is the common denominator. Something that can be completed within a reasonable time frame, something that you can draw a clear sense of how long it's going to take. And that can also kind of tie back into the realism of like understanding, maybe you can do the thing that you have in mind, but can you do it in the time frame that you're kind of having imposed on you or that you're imposing on yourself? So the reason I kind of highlight that specific type of goal setting in a conversation about self-optimization is because it is an incredibly reflective way of designing and structuring your goals. And I think reflection is kind of it's a subject that we've addressed before, certainly in our future planning episode, among others. So reflection, I think, is really the clearest way to measure what it is that you have to achieve in order to improve at what you're doing. In an indie dev context, I would say that applies to like scope and designing clear and attainable projects. For me personally, I know I mentioned earlier, I've been getting back into making videos. I remember, I think one of the issues I had before with consistency was just kind of feeling like I wanted to make something and then diving in and doing it and then being done for, an indiscernible amount of time. And that, while it was fun for the time, wasn't really helpful for me.
Right.
So I started incorporating things like, because I do a lot of scripted content, like writing in advance, trying to have a script finished while I'm editing the one before it, like that kind of thing, having that routine, because it helps me to just kind of better manage my schedule and make sure that I'm, kind of applying some consistency to my work.
Yeah.
So that's just an example.
Yeah, no, I think those are good ones. And to kind of like take a couple of points you said, like some of the key words that you were saying that stood out to me, that actually relates to some resources that have been really beneficial to me, are the reflection and routine aspect. So what I want to do, and we'll obviously continue other strategies and other things, Mustafa, that you used, because I think they're extremely relative here. But it's just share from the reflective perspective. Again, like Mustafa said, that's we've talked about it before, the importance of it. But I think another way to look at this differently is from this book, The Compound Effect, by Darren Hardy, which has had a huge impact on me in terms of, in very similar fashion, on some of the things that Mustafa just shared. And what this book is about is basically how, as you're going through your journey, how to kind of look ahead, project a little bit, but also identify, again, it's a whole reflection process, self-evaluate, and what changes can you make now that will basically pay dividends down the road. So Darren Hardy goes throughout this book, does a great job in terms of showing how that can break down. And it really comes down to like a few factors like choices, behavior, and then habits, right? These are all things that are relative to what Mustafa was speaking to, and not only that, but that's really relative to every one of you seeing the type of success that you want to see, whatever your goals are on that front. So this is one book I would highly recommend, totally in line with not just the reflection, but probably just everything that you're doing, that I would highly recommend. The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, especially from a reflection standpoint, but also just so much more. So in terms of other strategies, let's keep talking about these SMART goals, Mustafa, because I really like the direction you're going. So what are other things too? Because I mean, you mentioned what the acronyms stand for. Goals that are related, that have components of being specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. What are some, because you mentioned that the A and the R are kind of like your favorite areas. What are some things that you do to making sure that goals that you're setting for yourself or whatever are attainable? Because I know that's probably a big portion, because the attainability, if like, for example, if you make something that's so far-fetched, like you reach, let's say, too high, well, then it could probably destroy any motivation.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you do from an attainable perspective?
Oh, listen, this is a lesson that I learned the hard way a couple of years ago.
Oh, good. I mean,
probably around the time I was first starting up with you in this producer role. I was also a full-time grad school student. I was working 40 hours a week.